You're listening to the weekly Parsha podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramah Shemesh Israel 5778, 2018. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Seitze. I'd like to focus on the concept of lashon hara, which is the prohibition against speaking gossip, which is mentioned in our Parsha. It says in chapter 24, verse 9, Zachar es asher asa Hashem lekecha leMiriam. Remember that which Hashem your God did to Miriam, baderech b'tzeischa miMitzrayim, when you were on the way out of Egypt. The Torah is referring to a story which is told earlier in the Torah in regards to Miriam, that she and Aaron had spoken negatively about Moshe Rabbeinu, about the fact, as Chazal tell us, that he had separated from his wife Tzipora, and he was not being Mekayim period of Arivia, the obligation of a man to have children and to be Mesamech his wife, to cause his wife to rejoice. And as a result of that, so Miriam had leprosy, she had tzora'as, and she had to be sequestered for 7 days. The Jewish people had to wait for her as a result of her speaking negatively about Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Torah in our Parsha is enjoining us to remember that which happened to her and to take heed, to learn the lesson and not repeat the mistake that Miriam Hanaviyah, who obviously she was on a great exalted level, she was a great tzaddikas, she was a very righteous individual, but on her level she spoke negatively and for a constructive purpose. Nevertheless, she spoke negatively of Moshe, and therefore she received leprosy. So we're going to speak about we're going to see some beautiful midrash and speak about the concept of lashon hara and the neged tzora'as. When does leprosy come? It comes sometimes for lashon hara, but it also comes in other circumstances. Let's see this inside. Zachar es asher asa Hashem lekech leMiriam. Remember that which Hashem your God did to Miriam. Halacha. Adam sheish b'nega v'haya kohen k'roivai. Ma'hu sheyeh mutar lo l'raisai. Very interesting halacha. The question that the Brisa or the midrash wants to understand is, if let's say a person has a neged tzora'as, so the obligation is that it needs to be looked at by a kohen, by a priest. The priest needs to determine if it's a type of neged tzora'as that would cause him to need to be sequestered, to be sent out of the camp, to be sent out of the city, as the case may be, in order for it to have time to heal, for him to do tshuva, to repent. So the Kohen has to come and look at it. But is this like a type of edus, a type of testimony? Ordinarily, testimony you can't have performed by someone who's a karov, who's a relative. Let's say the person who has contracted leprosy, has contracted tzora'as, is a Kohen, is a priest, and he has a cousin or a brother who's a Kohen who can check him. What is the halacha? Very interesting. The sages say that a person is allowed to look at anyone's negaim. A Kohen, a priest, can look at his brother's nega, at his brother's leprosy, but he can't look at his own. He can't look at his own and determine the halach in regards to himself. Interestingly, colloquially, we use this phrase in Musar thought. A person has the inability to see his own defects. It's very hard for a person to recognize his character flaws. Often a person needs someone else to determine that. And we use this as a mashal, as an analogy, that a person can't determine that the nega that he has is tzora'as or not. Rabbi Meir's opinion is that when it comes to a person's relative as well, a priest is not able to determine if it's a nega, if it's considered tzora'as. Okay, so that's the first point in the midrash, which is an interesting point, and it talks about the fact that a person, in the Musar way of thinking of it, it talks about the fact that a person is unable to see his own negative character traits. We have a certain blindness in regards to ourselves. Why does a nega come according to the first pshat in the midrash? It comes because a person has a negative view. He has tzora'as. He doesn't want to share. He doesn't view himself as part of a greater whole. He sees himself as something separate from others. What is the case? Rabbi Yitzchak says, The way of the world is someone goes to his friend, he says, can I borrow your axe? Can I borrow your tools? Whatever it is, I would like to borrow. He says, I don't have it. It's not because he doesn't have it. He does have it. He doesn't want to lend it because he doesn't want to share. Another circumstance could happen. Same guy. His friend comes and says, I want to borrow your sieve. I want to use a pot. Can I have some milk? Whatever it is, the person comes and he asks for to borrow one of his kalim. He says no. He doesn't want to share. He has tzora'as. He doesn't want to share. As a result of this, so what happens? The tzora'as, leprosy, comes upon his home. How do we know? The verse says in Vayikra, in Leviticus chapter 14, verse 37, you shall see that the nega, the blemish of tzora'as, is on the walls. What would they do? The halacha is that you need to clear out everything from inside of the house, because the moment that the Kohen declares it to be leprosy, to be tzora'as, so everything that's inside of the house becomes impure. So they would first take out everything so that it wouldn't become impure. The verse says, take out everything. He has to take everything out of the house, and then everyone can see very clearly that he had an axe, he had a sieve, he had everything that he had been asked to borrow. So people will say, oh, do you see the tzora'as ayin, the lack of willingness to share with others? That which he had, he didn't want to lend out. So it's very interesting. The first point we said in the midrash is that a person doesn't see his own nega, he doesn't see his own negative character trait. And in this case, a person tries to hide his negativity, he tries to hide his unwillingness to share with others, to be a part of a greater whole. But what happens? The Torah reveals it not only to himself, but to everyone around him. What caused it is because he had this negative view. Okay, so that's the first reason why tzora'as comes. It's because of ayin hara. Another reason, according to Rabbi Chanina, the only reason that it comes is because of lashon hara, for speaking negative thoughts, not having negative thoughts, speaking negative words about others. You should know, say the sages, that the neged tzora'as comes as a result of lashon hara. We know that Miriam received leprosy. Why? Because she spoke negatively about Moshe. So this is what we are referring to. Like it says in our verse, remember that which Hashem, your God, did to Miriam. So it's a reminder to us to be careful, not to speak negatively of others. When we develop a negative attitude, when we develop a negative view, and when we share that, and when we concretize it with our speech is very powerful. It makes it real. It's not just a thought. It makes it real. So the effect is that something, in the times of the Torah, so a person would have a physical manifestation of his negativity, which you could see on his skin. So it would manifest in that way. He would need to be sent out of the camp in order to do tshuva, to recover from his spiritual illness. Okay, so that's the first part of the midrash. Very beautiful, very interesting. Now let's see another part of the midrash, which is important. You speak about your brother. The verse refers to two different speakings, and it's talking about negative speech. The first speaking, it just refers to him as your brother, and then the second speaking, it refers to him as the son of your mother. Rabbi Yochanan says, what does it mean? Why does it have these two references in the Torah? So, says Rabbi Yochanan, we have to be careful about speaking gossip about anyone, whether it's about a Jew, whether it's about a non-Jew, a Gentile. If a person speaks negatively, even about a Gentile, even about someone who's not one of us, so to speak, not even somebody who's not one of our people, right? So, in the end, a person accustoms himself to speaking negatively. The result is that he'll speak negatively about somebody who he considers his close one. And we get an even deeper aspect of this. Rabbi Yehuda ben Levi Amar, right, in those times, so a man would have more than one wife, and the person naturally felt closer to the brother or sister, the sibling, who is from both his mother and his father. So let's say a person has a brother who's only from his father, and it could be today as well. Let's say a person has a half brother, father remarried for whatever reason. So it's easier to say something negative about someone who's just my brother from my father and not from my mother. But says Rabbi Yehuda ben Levi, if a person accustoms himself to speaking negatively about someone who's only his brother from his father, he will end up saying something negative even about the one who's his brother from both his father and his mother, even someone who's even very close to him, someone who he feels is beloved to. Whoever has a haughty heart and speaks negatively about someone who's greater than him, interesting lashon of the midrash, so it will bring upon him the negon, it will bring upon him leprosy. And if you don't believe this to be so, Miriam HaTzedekis is a prime example that teaches us not to speak negatively of others. This is what the Torah is referring to when it says, a reminder, don't speak negatively. Miriam HaNeviah spoke about her own brother. So we need to learn from this not to speak negatively and the results of speaking negative speech. All right, I want to share with you two more pieces in the midrash, both beautiful pieces. Do not allow your mouth to cause a sin upon your flesh. What does that mean? The Chachamim, the sages, said that this verse is referring to people who speak lashon hara, speak gossip. What does it mean when it says don't allow your mouth? When a person speaks negatively, so it causes a sin, it's sinning against the body because it causes the body to contract this spiritual illness. The mouth is sinning against the flesh. The verse also says there in Ecclesiastes, it's in chapter 5, verse 5, that don't say in front of the angel that it's a mistake. Measure says, don't think that if you're going to go and say lashon hara, no one, who's going to know about it? It's just me and the guy who I spoke to. I said something negative, but who knows? No one will know. We'll keep it a secret. God says to such a person, have you idea? You should know, I am sending an angel. He's going to stand there right next to you. He's going to write down everything that you say about your friend. He's going to be recording with an MP3 player or with an iPhone. As the verse says, also when you make it known, don't curse. I'm not sure exactly what the verse is referring to in the Parsha shop, but the measure is understanding that when you make something known which is negative, you're saying some kind of curse, don't think that you get off scot-free. Because the bird in the heavens will bring the sound. So what's this bird in the heavens? Is referring to an angel. It refers to the angels as having 6 wings each one. So they're the ones who are going to bring that voice. They record it and they bring it. The verse says, why should God get angry at your voice? As a result of the voice that came out, the sound that came out of your mouth. And cause destruction. A person who speaks negatively of others, so the result is that he receives leprosy. He receives negative tzora'as. Again, we bring this verse that we have in our Parsha, in our pasuk. Miriam, because she spoke negatively of her brother, she received leprosy. She contracted leprosy. We need to remember what she did. She spoke negatively, and as a result, she got leprosy. Okay, so we need to keep this idea in mind. In those times, a person would contract a physical illness, but we need to know that, as we said before, a person, the physical illness that a person contracts today, or it's more of an emotional illness, which is an attitude of negativity. And it infects the person and causes him to speak negatively about someone who he wouldn't have dreamed of speaking negatively originally, as we said in the middle piece of the midrash. Now I'd like to share with you one final piece in the midrash, which speaks about Lashon Hara, and it also gives us a wrap-up. It's the final piece in our Parsha. It gives us a wrap-up in a positive sense of how it's going to be when this desire to speak negatively is removed from us. He says an amazing thing. A person who speaks Lashon Hara can only do so if he is denying that God exists. The verse says in Psalms chapter 12 verse 5, they said about their tongues, we're going to strengthen our lips, we're going to speak negatively. Who is the master over us? Okay, so a person who speaks negatively, so in essence what he's doing is he's showing that he doesn't care. That's what, that's the Pasha Pshat. He's showing he doesn't care that there's a God who's listening, as it were. The Seitze says a slightly different understanding. The L'Seif Kaifer Be'ik, a person who speaks negatively of others, in the end he's going to deny God. Okay, so we could try to understand this perhaps by saying again that there's a certain negativity. There's a negativity that comes out when a person speaks negatively of others. He causes the negativity to grow inside of him. Eventually he'll speak negatively of his brother, from his mother, and eventually he'll speak negatively of Hashem. He'll say, Mi Adon Lanu, who is the master over us? I can do whatever I want. A person who starts to throw off the yoke doesn't realize he's throwing off the positivity. It's so important. The Torah is teaching us here an amazing thing. It's so important to be positive, right? We can speak Lashon Hara. If we speak gossip about others, so then we end up speaking gossip about God, as it were. And we say, hey, I don't see God. God is not involved in my life, right? That's the result. The negativity breeds more negativity. Reb Shimon says, Reb Shimon says, I believe this is Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, that if we see that Miriam spoke negatively, and she did it for a positive purpose, she was concerned that Moshe Rabbeinu was not, he had separated from his wife Tzipora. So if she did it for a positive purpose, but nevertheless she receives leprosy, tzora'as, someone who speaks negatively of others in order to destroy them, to cut off their life, certainly God will cut off their tongues. And there, it says it doesn't mean it literally, but the point is that it's going to cause them, their tongues are going to cause them a tremendous amount of evil and oppression. The verse says in Tehillim also, chapter 12 verse 4, that a person who speaks negatively, Hashem will cut off the lips of all those who speak, the slick lips, those who are busy speaking negatively of others. Okay, so that's the sum up of the idea of not speaking Lashon Hara negatively, not getting into negative thoughts, not speaking negative things of others. And the result is all of the different, a person who's negative, what happens? We find out in the end. Everyone finds out in the end. Not only does he find out his true nature, but we all find out his true nature, as we saw at the beginning. So, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now here's where we get positive. God says, because of the fact that there were those who spoke Lashon Hara, I removed my Shekhinah, my divine presence from you. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed for what? For sinas chinam, for unbased hatred. People were speaking negatively of each other. They had an ayin sara. They weren't willing to share with others. The whole story with Kamsa bar Kamsa, which is in the Gemara Gittin. Shenema Ruma ala Shamayim Elakim. it says that God went up to heaven as a result of our negativity. But in the future, what's going to happen? God is going to remove the Yetzer Hara from us. And the verse says in Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 26, I shall remove the heart of stone from your flesh. And then Hashem says, I will return my divine presence to you. Once we remove that heart of stone and we allow ourselves to feel, we allow ourselves to recognize we're part of a greater whole, so then Hashem will come and manifest amongst us. How do we know this? As the verse says in Joel chapter 3 verse 1, I shall pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Right, so here it uses the word basar, and here it uses the word basar, it's speaking about removing the heart of stone, replacing it with a heart of flesh. Hashem pours out his spirit upon flesh, all flesh. And as a result of the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu places his divine presence upon us, interesting way that the midrash ends, that you will merit to Torah, you will have a merit to be able to understand the depths of the Torah, and you will have peace amongst you. You will sit and you will live in peace in the whole world. Shenemar, as the verse says in Isaiah chapter 54, verse 13, V'chol banayach limudei Hashem, Rav Shalom banayach. All of your children will be learned in the ways of God. They will learn the Torah. The focus, as the Rambam says in the end of Hilchos Malachim, the focus of the Jewish people will be upon studying the Torah. We'll be able to study without any disturbances. We'll be able to focus on studying the way of God, which is embodied in the Torah, and there will be a tremendous amount of peace in the world. So here we have what happens when a person is negative and creates rifts between himself and others, whether it's through tzora'as, ayin, by being negative and not wanting to share, whether it's by speaking negatively, he causes himself to be exposed. He ends up speaking negatively about others. The negativity spreads. He ends up receiving leprosy, etc. All of the negative things that happen when a person hardens his heart. But the midrash is telling us that in the future time, it's going to be different. Hashem will remove that heart of stone. And I want to say that the midrash is telling us that we can do it today. We can recognize how terrible, how destructive the power of negativity is. It can cause us to speak negatively of those we love. It can cause us to speak negatively of God himself. Heaven forbid. The Torah is asking us to be positive, to be optimistic, to look for the good, to find where our friends are doing good things and speak about the positive, to have an ayin tova, to be able to share with others, to recognize that we're part of a greater whole. By doing so, when we are positive, when we speak positively of others, and when we speak positively of Hashem, and recognize all the good that we've received, whether it's from others or whether it's from God himself, so then we develop within ourselves a heart of flesh. And we merit to have the Shekhinah, we merit to have the divine presence. May Hashem help us. I want to bless you and ask you to bless me back. Hashem should help us, that we should be able to recognize and fulfill the kavanah of this verse. Remember that which happened to Miriam, so that we don't walk down the path of negativity, but rather walk down the path of positivity, focusing on the good, having gratitude and thankfulness to those around us and to Hashem, and we will be zeiche. Hashem should help us to be zeiche. We should merit to see that day when he pours out his divine presence, his spirit upon all flesh. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos. This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.